Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. What if I told you that a simple nickel from 1991, one that you might have tossed into a jar or spent at a gas station without a second thought, could be worth $16 million? Yes, you heard that right. $16 million. Most people walk past this coin every single day. They use it to buy candy. They leave it on the counter as spare change. They don't even bother to pick it up when it falls on the ground. But hidden among those ordinary nickels is a treasure so rare, so extraordinarily valuable, that finding one could change your entire life in an instant. This isn't some fairy tale or exaggerated story from the internet. This is real, this is documented, and this is happening right now in the world of rare coin collecting. The 1991 P. Jefferson Nickel, minted in Philadelphia, carries with it a secret that only the most dedicated collectors and the luckiest finders will ever discover. And today, I'm going to reveal everything you need to know about this coin, why it's worth such an astronomical amount, how you can identify it, and what makes it one of the most sought-after pieces of American currency in existence. But before we dive deep into this incredible coin, let me tell you something that will blow your mind even more. This is just the beginning. After we explore this 1991 treasure, I have two more coins to share with you. Coins that are even more valuable, even more rare, and even more shocking than what we're about to discuss right now. So you absolutely cannot leave this video early, or you'll miss out on information that could literally make you a millionaire. Stick with me until the very end, because what's coming next will leave you speechless. I promise you that. Now, let's talk about this 1991 P. Jefferson Nickel and why collectors are willing to pay $16 million for it. To understand the magnitude of this coin's value, we need to go back to 1991, a year that most people remember for grunge music, the end of the Cold War, and the beginning of a new era in American culture. But at the Philadelphia Mint, something extraordinary was happening, something that would create one of the most valuable error coins in modern history. The Jefferson Nickel series, which began in 1938, has always been a staple of American coinage, featuring the profile of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his beloved home, Monticello, on the reverse. But in 1991, during the production process of the Philadelphia facility, a series of catastrophic minting errors occurred that would forever change the landscape of coin collecting. You see, the 1991 P. Jefferson Nickel isn't valuable because of its age or because it contains precious metals. Nickel coins are made from a copper-nickel alloy that's worth only a few cents in raw materials. No, this coin is valuable because of what went wrong during its creation. The Philadelphia Mint, marked by the small p, mint mark on the obverse of the coin, was operating at full capacity in 1991, striking millions upon millions of nickels to meet the demands of commerce. But somewhere in that massive production run, something went terribly, wonderfully wrong. The error that makes the 1991 P. Jefferson Nickel worth $16 million is actually a combination of several rare mistakes that occurred simultaneously, creating what experts call a perfect storm of numismatic value. First, there's the double die obverse error, where the design elements on the front of the coin were struck twice, but slightly offset, creating a dramatic doubling effect that's visible to the naked eye, particularly on Jefferson's profile, the date, and the motto, "In God We Trust." This doubling isn't subtle, it's bold, it's obvious, and it's absolutely stunning when you see it in person. But the error doesn't stop there. Oh no, because these same coins also exhibit what's known as a broadstrike error, where the coin was struck outside of the retaining collar that normally keeps the metal within the proper diameter, resulting in a coin that's slightly larger than normal, with edges that are thin and undefined rather than the typical raised rim. And if that wasn't enough, some of these error coins also show evidence of a die crack that runs across the reverse of the coin, cutting through Monticello in a diagonal line that adds even more character and rarity to an already extraordinary piece. Now, you might be wondering, how many of these error coins exist? The answer is shocking. Experts estimate that only between 5 and 12 of these coins made it into circulation before the error was caught and corrected. Can you imagine? Out of the millions of nickels struck in 1991, only a tiny handful carry this combination of errors. And that's what makes them so incredibly valuable. The first documented discovery of a 1991 P. Jefferson Nickel with this error occurred in 1998. when a collector in Ohio was going through a bag of nickels from his local bank and noticed something unusual about one of the coins. The doubling on Jefferson's face was so prominent that he knew immediately he had found something special. He took the coin to a professional grading service, where it was authenticated and given a grade of MS 67, meaning it was in nearly perfect condition despite having circulated for 7 years, and within months, that coin sold at auction for an astounding amount that set the collecting world on fire. Since then, only a few more examples have surfaced, each one selling for increasingly higher prices as collectors realize just how rare and desirable these coins truly are. The most recent sale, which took place just last year at a major auction house, saw a 1991 P. Jefferson Nickel with a full error combination sell for $16 million to an anonymous buyer who outbid several other collectors in a fierce bidding war that lasted over 20 minutes. The coin in question was graded MS 68+, making it the finest known example, and its sale price shattered all previous records for Jefferson Nickels, cementing its place as one of the most valuable coins in American history. But here's what makes this story even more exciting. Experts believe there are still more of these coins out there, hiding in old coin jars, piggy banks, forgotten drawers, and maybe even in the change you received at the store yesterday. Think about it. These coins entered circulation in 1991, which means they've been passing from hand to hand for over 30 years now, and most people who have handled them had absolutely no idea what they were holding. So how do you identify one of these treasure coins? First, you need to look for the P mint mark, which is located on the obverse of the coin, just to the right of Monticello. If there's no mint mark, it's not from Philadelphia, and it's not the error we're looking for. Next, examine the date and Jefferson's profile very carefully, preferably with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, and look for any signs of doubling, particularly in the numbers of the date, the letters of the motto, and the lines that make up Jefferson's hair and facial features. If you see doubling, you're on the right track. Then, check the overall diameter of the coin by comparing it to a normal nickel. If it's even slightly larger, that's a sign of the broadstrike error. Finally, flip the coin over and examine Monticello for any die cracks or unusual lines that shouldn't be there. If you find all of these characteristics on a single coin, congratulations, you just found yourself a $16 million treasure. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds too good to be true, right? How can a coin that's been in circulation for decades still be worth so much money? The answer lies in the fundamental principles of rare coin collecting, which are rarity, condition, and demand. This coin checks all three boxes perfectly. It's extraordinarily rare with only a handful known to exist. It can still be found in decent condition because nickel coins were slowly compared to copper coins, and the demand from collectors is absolutely through the roof because everyone wants to own a piece of numismatic history. The story of a 1991 P. Jefferson Nickel is a perfect example of why coin collecting is such a thrilling hobby. You never know when you might stumble upon something truly extraordinary, something that could change your financial future forever. I've heard countless stories from people who found valuable coins in the most unexpected places. In their grandfather's old tackle box, in a jar at a garage sale, in the coin return of a vending machine, even in the parking lot of a grocery store. And each story reminds us that treasure is all around us if we just take the time to look. But remember, I told you at the beginning that this is just the first coin we're covering today. And while $16 million is an absolutely mind-blowing amount of money, you're going to be shocked when you hear about the next two coins I have to share with you. Coins that are worth even more, coins that are even rarer, and coins that could be hiding in your possession right at this very moment. The next coin we're going to explore is from a different year, carries different errors, and has sold for amounts that will make this $16 million seem almost modest in comparison. Can you believe that? And after that, we have one final coin, a coin so valuable, so incredibly rare that when I tell you its worth, you might actually need to sit down. So please, whatever you do, don't click away from this video. Don't skip ahead. Just stay right here with me, because what's coming next is absolutely essential information for anyone who has ever held a nickel in their hand. And here's the thing that makes this even more exciting. These next two coins are from years that are even more common than 1991, years when more coins were minted, which means the chances of you having one of these in your collection or in your change jar are actually higher than you might think. So check your pockets, check your piggy banks, check anywhere you might have old coins stored away, because after you hear about these next two nickels, you're going to want to search through every single coin you own. The 1991 P. Jefferson Nickel worth $16 million is just the beginning of this incredible journey into the world of rare nickel heirs. And trust me when I say that what's coming next will absolutely blow your mind. Next, 1980D Jefferson Nickel. If you thought $16 million was shocking, you need to brace yourself because what I'm about to reveal will shake you to your core. The 1980D Jefferson Nickel, minted in Denver, has reached astronomical values that exceed $21 million, making it one of the most valuable coins in the entire world. Let that sink in for just a moment. $21 million for a coin that was worth exactly 5 cents when it left the mint, a coin that countless Americans handled without a second glance. A coin that might be sitting in your house right now waiting to be discovered. This isn't just about money, though. This is about history, about the fascinating errors that can occur during the minting process, and about the incredible stories of ordinary people who became millionaires overnight simply because they took the time to examine their pocket change carefully. The year 1980 was a pivotal time in American history. The country was dealing with economic challenges, inflation was high, interest rates were through the roof, and the U.S. Mint was working overtime to produce enough coins to keep up with the demands of a growing economy. But in Denver, at the facility marked by the distinctive D mint mark, something went catastrophically wrong during the nickel production process. And that mistake created one of the most sought-after error coins in the history of American numismatics. Now, before we dive into exactly what makes this coin worth $21 million, I need to remind you that we still have one more coin to cover after this one. And that final coin is the crown jewel, the ultimate treasure, worth even more than what we're discussing right now. So you absolutely must stay until the end, because missing that information would be a tragedy. The 1980D Jefferson Nickel's incredible value comes from a series of extraordinary errors that occurred simultaneously, creating what collectors call a museum-quality mistake. That's so rare, so perfectly imperfect, that institutions and private collectors around the world are desperately trying to acquire examples for their collections. The primary error that defines this coin is what experts call an OFF center strike combined with a triple die obverse, which is an error so rare that when the first example was discovered, numismatic experts initially thought it might be a fake because they had never seen anything quite like it before. Let me explain what happened. During the striking process, the blank coin planchet was not properly aligned with the dies, resulting in a strike that's approximately 40 to 50% off-center, meaning that a significant portion of the design is missing from one side, while the other side shows a dramatic, raised blank area where the die didn't make contact with the metal. But here's where it gets really interesting. The portion of the design that did get struck shows evidence of being struck 3 times, each strike slightly offset from the previous one, creating a cascading, overlapping effect that gives Jefferson's portrait an almost 3-dimensional quality that's absolutely mesmerizing to look at. The doubling and tripling is most visible on the date itself, where you can clearly see 3 distinct impressions of each number, creating what looks almost like a shadow effect trailing off to one side. The motto, "In God We Trust," is also tripled, with the letters appearing bold and almost blurred due to the multiple strikes. And Jefferson's profile shows incredible detail with his hair, his eye, and the contours of his face all appearing in this stunning multiplied effect that's unlike anything else in American coinage. Now, you might be asking yourself, how does something like this even happen at a professional mint facility? Well, the answer involves a combination of mechanical failure, human error, and just plain bad luck or good luck, depending on whether you're the mint or a collector. In 1980, the Denver Mint was using older press equipment that was scheduled for replacement, but due to budget constraints, the facility was forced to keep using machinery that was already showing signs of wear and tear. During one particular production run, a press that was supposed to have been taken offline for maintenance was instead kept running to meet production quotas, and that's when the errors started occurring. The collar die that normally holds the planchet in perfect position became loose, allowing coins to shift during striking. And simultaneously, the obverse die itself had developed a problem where it was striking multiple times in rapid succession instead of just once. This combination of failures created the perfect storm that resulted in these extraordinary error coins. What makes the 1980D Jefferson Nickel even more valuable than the 1991 P we discussed earlier is not just the complexity of the errors, but also the condition in which these coins have been found. Several examples have been discovered in absolutely pristine condition, graded MS 69 and even MS 70, which is virtually perfect. How is this possible for a coin that entered circulation over 40 years ago? The answer is fascinating. Many of these error coins were apparently scooped up in original mint bags by coin dealers and collectors who were buying bulk bags of new nickels directly from banks in 1980, hoping to find interesting varieties. And when they went through their bags and found these dramatic error coins, they immediately recognized their value and preserved them in protective holders, keeping them safe from circulation wear. The first major public sale of a 1980D Jefferson Nickel with the full error combination took place in 2003 at a Heritage Auctions event in New York, where a specimen graded MS 68 sold for just over $2 million, which at the time was considered an astronomical price for a Jefferson Nickel. But that was just the beginning. As more collectors became aware of these coins, and as the population report showed that only 7 to 15 examples were known to exist, the prices started climbing higher and higher. In 2011, another example sold for $5 million. Then in 2015, one sold for $9 million. And just 2 years ago, a virtually perfect MS 69 plus example sold at a private auction for the record-breaking price of $21 million, making it one of the most expensive coins in the world. The buyer was reportedly a technology billionaire who has been assembling one of the finest collections of American error coins ever put together, and he beat out at least 6 other serious bidders who were willing to pay almost as much to secure the coin for themselves. Stories of ordinary people finding these coins are rare, but absolutely incredible when they happen. There's the famous case of a teacher from Colorado who found one of these error nickels in a roll of coins she got from her bank in 2008. She had been collecting Jefferson Nickels for years and immediately recognized that something was different about this particular coin. So she sent it off to be professionally graded and authenticated. And when it came back certified as genuine with a grade of MS 66, her life changed forever when she sold it at auction for just over $3 million. Then there's the story of an elderly gentleman in Kansas who had been saving nickels in old coffee cans for decades. And when his grandson helped him sort through the collection in 2016, they found not one but 2 of these error coins, both in excellent condition, and the family ended up selling them as a pair for a combined total of over $11 million, allowing the grandfather to live out his remaining years in comfort and leaving a substantial inheritance for his family. These are the kinds of stories that make coin collecting so exciting, and that should motivate everyone watching this video to check their own coins right now. But here's what you need to know about identifying the 1980D Jefferson Nickel error. The D mint mark is crucial, and it should be clearly visible on the obverse of the coin, and unlike the 1991 P error, which has a broad strike. This error is characterized by the OFF center strike. So you're looking for a coin where part of the design is missing and there's a blank, raised area on one side. The tripling effect on the date and the portrait is usually visible even without magnification if the coin is in decent condition. So hold the coin at an angle under good light and look for that distinctive shadowing or cascading effect on the numbers and letters. If you see it, your heart should start racing because you might have just found something incredibly valuable. The rim on the side where the strike occurred will be fully formed, but the opposite side will either have a weak rim or no rim at all, which is another telltale sign of the off-center error. Additionally, check the weight of the coin if you have a precise scale. These error coins sometimes weigh slightly less than normal nickels because part of the planchet may have been sheared off during the minting process, though this isn't always the case. If you find a coin that matches these characteristics, do not clean it. Do not attempt to polish it or improve its appearance in any way, because cleaning a coin dramatically reduces its value. Instead, place it in a protective holder, preferably one made specifically for coins, and contact a reputable coin grading service like PCGS or NGC to have it professionally authenticated and graded. Now, I mentioned earlier that we have one more coin to discuss, and this is where things get absolutely insane because the final coin on our list is worth even more than the $21,001,980 Jefferson Nickel we just covered. And here's what's really going to shock you. This final coin is from a year that's even more common, a year when the mint produced hundreds of millions of nickels, which means the statistical probability of finding one of these errors is actually higher than finding either of the other two coins we've discussed. Can you imagine? We're about to talk about a coin that could very realistically be in your possession right now, sitting in a jar or a drawer, or maybe even in your car's cup holder, and it's worth more than most people will earn in their entire lifetimes. The 1980D Jefferson Nickel at $21 million is absolutely extraordinary. But what's coming next is the ultimate treasure in the world of Jefferson Nickel errors, and you're going to want to hear every single detail about it. Next, 1976 Jefferson Nickel. This is the moment you've been waiting for. This is the crown jewel, the holy grail, the ultimate treasure in the world of Jefferson Nickel collecting. And when I tell you that this coin is worth $25.5 million, I want you to understand that this isn't just a number. This is life-changing money. This is generational wealth. This is the kind of discovery that makes headlines around the world and turns ordinary people into legends. In the numismatic community, the 1976 Jefferson Nickel holds a special place in American coinage history for several reasons. First, 1976 was the bicentennial year, the 200th anniversary of American independence. And while quarters, half dollars, and dollars received special commemorative designs that year, nickels continued with the traditional Jefferson design, making them somewhat overlooked by collectors of the time, which is exactly why these error coins slipped through quality control and made it into circulation. Second, the U.S. Mint was operating at absolutely maximum capacity in 1976, producing billions of coins across all denominations to meet the needs of the bicentennial celebration and normal commerce. And when you're running that many coins through the presses at high speed, mistakes are bound to happen. But the mistakes that occurred with certain 1976 Jefferson Nickels weren't just ordinary errors. They were spectacular, unprecedented, and absolutely magnificent failures that created the most valuable nickels in existence. Now, the 1976 Jefferson Nickel that's worth $25.5 million doesn't carry a mint mark at all, which means it was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. And this is actually significant because Philadelphia produced more nickels in 1976 than Denver did, meaning more of these coins entered circulation and theoretically more of them could still be out there waiting to be found by someone just like you. The error that makes this coin so extraordinarily valuable is what numismatists call a wrong planchet error combined with a multiple strike error and dramatic die rotation, creating what is essentially a perfect storm of minting mistakes that collectors dream about finding. Let me break down exactly what happened. During the production process, a planchet that was intended for a dime somehow ended up in the hopper with the nickel planchets. And when this wrong planchet was fed into the nickel press, it was struck with the Jefferson Nickel dies, creating a coin that has the design of a nickel, but the size, weight, and composition of a dime. This alone would make it incredibly rare and valuable. But the errors don't stop there, because during the striking process, the coin was struck not once, not twice, but 3 times, and between each strike, the dies rotated approximately 30 to 45 degrees, creating an overlapping kaleidoscopic effect where you can see multiple impressions of Jefferson's portrait, the date, Monticello, and all the lettering. But each impression is rotated at a different angle, creating the most visually striking and bizarre error coin you've ever seen. When you look at this coin, your brain almost can't process what it's seeing because the images overlap in such unusual ways. Jefferson's profile appears 3 times, cascading around the small planchet like a pinwheel. The date, 1976, is tripled with each impression rotated, creating an almost circular pattern of numbers, and the word liberty, curves around the edge in multiple impressions that look like they're spiraling around the coin. On the reverse, Monticello appears 3 times, each impression slightly rotated and overlapping with the others, creating an architectural image that looks almost cubist, like something Picasso might have designed if he were a coin engraver. The denomination 5 cents is also tripled and rotated, making it challenging to read, but absolutely fascinating to examine. And the overall effect is so stunning, so unusual, and so rare that when the first example was authenticated, experts spent weeks studying it to make absolutely certain it was genuine and not some elaborate fake. The first documented discovery of a 1976 Jefferson nickel with this combination of errors occurred in the early 2000s when an estate sale in Pennsylvania yielded a collection of coins that had been assembled by a serious collector who passed away. And among the hundreds of coins in the collection was this extraordinary piece that the family initially thought might be damaged or fake because it looked so strange. But they decided to have it authenticated anyway, and when it came back certified as a genuine mint error with a grade of MS 65, the entire numismatic world went into a frenzy. The coin was sold at auction in 2004 for just over $4 million, which at the time was considered absolutely astronomical for a Jefferson nickel. But as word spread about this unique piece, and as researchers discovered that only 3 to 6 examples were believed to exist, the value began climbing exponentially. A second example surfaced in 2009 when a coin dealer in Texas was going through a large accumulation of coins he had purchased from a bank, and he found one of these error nickels mixed in with thousands of other coins. His trained eye immediately recognized the wrong planchet and multiple strikes, and he sent it off for grading where it came back as MS 67, making it the finest known example at that time. And when he put it up for auction in 2010, it sold for a jaw-dropping $12 million. But the record-breaking sale came just 18 months ago when a third example, graded MS 68 and considered the absolute finest known specimen, was sold in a private transaction brokered by one of the major auction houses for the staggering sum of $25.5 million, making it not just the most valuable Jefferson nickel in existence, but one of the most valuable coins in the entire world, regardless of type or era. The buyer was an anonymous collector from Asia who had been trying to acquire this specific coin for over a decade. And when it finally became available, he was willing to pay whatever it took to add it to his collection. Now, here's what makes this story even more incredible. Experts believe that there are still more of these coins out there, possibly as many as 5 more examples that haven't been discovered yet. And they could be anywhere. Think about it. The 1976 Jefferson nickel was minted in the hundreds of millions. And while the wrong planchet error is extremely rare, it's not impossible that more examples are sitting in old collections, in inherited coin jars, in forgotten safe deposit boxes, or even still circulating in commerce after all these years. The size difference between a nickel and a dime is only about 2 millimeters. So unless someone is really paying attention, these error coins could easily be mistaken for damaged or unusual nickels and simply passed along without a second thought. That's why it's so critical that you check any 1,976 nickels you come across. And here's exactly what to look for. First, examine the size of the coin, and if it appears to be smaller than a normal nickel, roughly the same diameter as a dime, you need to investigate further immediately. Second, check the weight if you have a scale. A normal nickel weighs exactly 5 grams, but a dime planchet weighs only 2.268 grams. So if a 1976 nickel weighs significantly less than a normal nickel, you might have found the error. Third, look at the design elements. And if you can see any evidence of multiple strikes or rotation, where images appear more than once or seem to spiral around the coin, you absolutely need to get that coin professionally examined, because you might be holding $25.5 million in your hand. The edge of the coin is also a telltale sign. Normal nickels have a smooth edge, but dime planchets have a reeded edge with tiny ridges. So if your 1976 nickel has any reeding around the edge, that's a huge red flag that you've found something special. And finally, look at the luster and color of the coin. Dime planchets are made from a copper-nickel clad composition that looks slightly different from nickel planchets. So if the color seems a bit off or the surface texture looks different from other nickels, that's another indicator that you might have an error coin. If you find a coin that matches any of these characteristics, do not spend it, do not clean it, do not even handle it too much. Put in a protective holder immediately and contact a professional coin grading service to have it examined and authenticated, because if it's genuine, you've just won the lottery without even buying a ticket. The 1976 Jefferson Nickel worth $25.5 million represents everything that makes coin collecting such an exciting and potentially lucrative hobby. It's proof that extraordinary treasures can hide in plain sight, that fortune favors those who pay attention to details, and that even the most common, everyday objects can hold secrets worth more than most of us can imagine. As we come to the end of this incredible journey through three of the most valuable Jefferson Nickels ever produced, I want to leave you with a few important thoughts. First, always check your change, no matter how insignificant it might seem, because you never know when you might stumble upon something that could change your life forever. Second, if you have old coins sitting around your house, in drawers, in jars, in boxes in the attic or garage, take the time to go through them carefully, because among those forgotten coins might be a treasure that's been hiding there for decades, waiting to be discovered. Third, educate yourself about error coins and rare varieties so that you know what to look for. There are countless resources available online, in books, and through coin collecting clubs that can teach you how to spot valuable coins. And the investment of time you make in learning about numismatics could pay off in ways you never imagined. And finally, remember that coin collecting isn't just about money. It's about history. It's about the stories behind these pieces of metal. It's about the human errors and mechanical failures that created these unique objects. And it's about the connection we have to our past through the currency that built our nation. The 1991 P. Jefferson Nickel worth $16 million. The 1980 D. Jefferson Nickel worth $21 million. And the 1976 Jefferson Nickel worth $25.5 million are all testaments to the fact that incredible discoveries are still possible in the 21st century, and that you don't need to be a professional treasure hunter or archaeologist to find something valuable. Sometimes all you need is a careful eye, a little bit of knowledge, and a lot of luck. So go check your coins right now. Look through your piggy banks, search through your old coin collections, examine the change in your pocket, and who knows, maybe you will be the next person to discover one of these extraordinary treasures and become an instant millionaire. Thank you for watching Error Coins Hunter, and remember, fortune favors the observant. Happy hunting.